The Pit Press Podcast.
Reynolds launches from downtown. No. Van Horn, no. And that's it. New Mexico with it.
Some big-time games and shots. How about this? Where have you been? MC knocking him down twice. Looking top and keeping it alive. House from knee. Got it. This kid is amazing. This is what got them in trouble. That ball screen giving up the mid-range. Look at this foul. House again. It's topping. Fifth assist.
And New Mexico's going to dribble out the clock. The Lobos three-peat as conference tournament champions Kendall Williams fires the ball into the air. But New Mexico wins it this afternoon 64-58 over San Diego State. And the Lobos claim the Mountain West Conference's automatic bid into the NCAA tournament.
Okay, God willing, any technical difficulties. My name is Ryan Tomari. Welcome to the Pit Press Podcast. And as we continue, we're the exclusive host of our Lobo Legend series. I know I'm amped, Mr. Ed Nunez. I know you are, and I'm hoping that when we post this, other people will, because this is, to me, one of the cooler interviews. All jokes aside, I know you're not Daniel Ferris, but this is just as cool. As always, I'm joined by the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Ryan. I'm looking forward to this interview, too, and I think people are going to be surprised who we're going to have on in the future. Got a call from a former Lobo great last night, so stay tuned. We got another Lobo great on today.
And before we get to him and I get to his intro, I hope the introduction makes up for my gaffes over the last 20 minutes. But hey, if you're looking for a place to watch the Lobos when they are on the road, head over to Turquoise Desert Tap Room. It's only a few minutes away from Santa Ana. Star Casino, catch the Lobos, other college basketball, the NBA, the NHL, NBA All-Star Game coming up. Stop by for food, drinks, and basketball. Head over to Turquoise Desert Tap Room. They also serve local brews on tap. Turquoise Desert Tap Room. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll be there for continuity purposes. We'll be there tonight prior to San Diego State. And Abrazo Homes is Lobo owned and Lobo operated, and a proud supporter of the University of New Mexico Athletic Department and its student athletes. Join the movement and help Abrazo Homes build a moment and help join the movement and help Abrazo Homes build momentum by contributing to the 505 Sports Venture Foundation or the UNM Lobo Club. And hey, our buddies Drew Herrig and Kurt Roth over at the 505 Sports Venture Foundation. What else can go wrong? What else can go wrong today? When you buy an Abrazo home, you become a part of the Abrazo Familia. Looking to build the perfect home in New Mexico, find them at abrazohomes.com. All right, smooth sailing from here. I am very excited for our next guest. He played for 4 seasons for the Lobos from 2002, 2006 under former head coach Richie McKay. He was a 3-time All-Mountain West selection and helped guided the Lobos to a Mountain West tournament championship in 2005. Among the program, he is 9th in school history with over 1,100 points, 600 rebounds. He led the team in field goal percentage in all 4 seasons as a Lobo. He ranks 20th all-time on UNM's scoring list and became the Lobos' 23rd player to break the 1,000-point barrier. Following his collegiate career, he played professional basketball overseas from 2007 to 14. During that span, he played for 3 different teams, and his performance also helped him earn a spot on an Italian national team, and he came back and coached, I believe, with Steve Ware. His name, Paul Ware, still everything's going wrong. He is former Lobo center, David Chiotti. Hey, I got your name right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. No, you should be surprised how hard it is to get the last name right. You know, if you know the last name, then you know me, you know?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I want to thank you for joining us. For me, Ed, because I'm 20-some years younger than Ed, and we give each other a hard time about that, I'm talking to a Lobo that I watched play. So I am very happy. We are very gracious for your time. I'm going to throw it over to Ed. He's got our first question.
You know, Dave, to echo what Ryan said, I watched you play too, and Ryan's right. I'm old, man, but, a lot of those memories are great ones, and I wouldn't trade them if the Lobo stopped seeing play. And in some cases, I was even able to play ball with. I'd never trade that. David, first question we have for you. You played at St. Francis Mountain View high school in California. Tell us a little bit about your career there and what it was that led you to come here to the University of New Mexico.
So, I mean, as some Lobo fans would know, Sinque Carey and Patrick Dennehy both went to St. Francis High School in Mountain View. The reason why I went to St. Francis High School in Mountain View was because my mother taught there. So I grew up as a little kid kind of running around the football fields and watching St. Francis play and kind of watching Sinque play when I was a little kid and watching them win a California State Championship in 1995 at Oracle Arena where the Warriors played. And I remember that game. You know, that was a big moment in my life of kind of understanding that I really wanted to kind of pursue basketball and be really full-fledged basketball. They were playing at the Dominguez Dons, which had like Tayshaun Prince and all these other unbelievable athletes. And I think they were number one team in the nation at that time. And that we were complete underdogs as a high school. And we ended up winning that game and being the California State champion. And Sinque Carey was a freshman at that time. And that was a big part of why we won. And then, you know, I continued to watch Sinque Carey. He was a Bay Area Baller, was his AAU organization. And that was the same AAU organization that I also played for. So it just kind of, you know, with him kind of playing here, Patrick Dennehy being here, my AAU coaches, and kind of the hard recruitment from Fran Fraschilla for me to come here, you know, that was kind of what brought me there. So my success at St. Francis was partly going there because of my parents, partly because, you know, Sinque Carey and Patrick Dennehy kind of paved the way. And then, you know, that school was successful in everything. You know, they were the last school kind of in the private school area to kind of beat De La Salle in football and break their winning streak. You know, they've had success over the years in the program. And then when my time was there, we won 3 CCS sectionals in a row. We went to the California State Championship my junior and senior year. We lost both times. My junior year, it was against the Dominguez Dons with Tyson Chandler and some other greats. And so that was not a game we were probably going to win. But my senior year, we were up 11 and we had the game in the bag, and we ended up losing it by 1. But that, you know, that's a long story in another time. But you know, St. Francis was really a great school and really helped prepare me for, you know, coming to UNM and getting me started pretty well as a freshman.
So it's Coach Fraschilla that recruited you to come to UNM.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so then Richie McCabe took over after Coach Fraschilla was removed as the head coach. You know, as a freshman at UNM, you were teammates with one of the greatest scorers in Lobo history, Ruben Douglas. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, that's what made my job easy. As you know, I didn't have to have a big role, just screen for Ruben and rebound the ball and get the ball back to Ruben, you know. No, I mean, that was, you know, it was hard because, you know, when Richie came over, Richie, you know, recruited me at Oregon State. So I had a good relationship with him there. One of my visits was to Oregon. So when I was kind of going through schools, it was, you know, Oregon State. I'm like, well, if I'm going to go to Oregon, I'm going to, you know, choose the Ducks probably over the Beavers. And so, you know, we had a good relationship, but, you know, I was honest with them and I told them that, you know, and they went, you know, after their next guy or whoever they were going with. So it was more of, you know, it wasn't the right school or right fit for me. Not that Richie wasn't, you know, the right coach for me. So when Richie came in, you know, I was bought into more of the school, you know, playing with Sinque Carey, playing in, you know, in Albuquerque in front of 18,018. I felt really comfortable here on my visit. And so Richie coming in really didn't change my decisions, you know, to not want to be here or change my commitment kind of to the school, you know. And so, you know, it didn't really change much, but, you know, I'm happy it worked out because I really love playing for Richie.
That's a great answer. What kind of, speaking of Coach Richie McKay, can you describe his coaching style?
Yeah, see, so Richie really believed in, you know, you work for what you get, kind of, you know, and no one was above anyone else, you know. And I remember that from day one where, you know, the main focus was, yeah, these managers are here to help us, but, you know, they're one of your teammates, not like your little, you know, errand boys to go do whatever you want. And you know, and some people scoff and laugh at that in the beginning, but you realize he was serious about that. Like, we were a team, we were a unit. No one was going to be bigger than really anyone else. And, you know, if you work hard and you want it, you will get rewarded, you know. And I think that was the hard part for Richie in the beginning was, you know, he had to chase out some of the guys that didn't want to buy into that, you know, and he kind of, you know, and I love Chad Bell and Jamal, but, you know, they wanted more individualistic roles kind of, and it wasn't going to fit with the dynamic of what we were doing, you know. And I think Marlon Palmer was another one of those guys who kind of wanted a different kind of role. And even Patrick Dennehy ended up leaving because he wanted, you know, a different type of role than that. You know, and so go back to, I don't think I even answered that question about playing with Ruben. You know, that was one of the guys who decided to stay and decided to kind of, you know, not rebuild, but, you know, go through the trenches and go through this kind of rebuild process and go into, like, you know, trusting each other and working hard for each other and becoming a team. And, you know, that first year was tough because we really didn't have enough talent or enough, you know, camaraderie to really get it done. But Ruben was amazing. And so, you know, we knew that was where our talent was, and we knew we had to, you know, feed off of that. But as you saw the progression, as like we go from that to kind of having some returners, having some camaraderie, and then we bring in Danny Granger and Troy DeVries, and, you know, that helps with talent. Plus, like I said, they have the talent, but they had the right mentality of how to play and how to play together and how to do things right. And then you saw kind of that final peak, you know, that junior year when we won the Mountain West tournament.
Man, that's a name I haven't heard in a while either. Troy DeVries. That brings back. You kind of hit on that your junior year, but that 2003, 2004, Danny Granger transferred in from Bradley. He became eligible. The team was 14-14 that season. Did you notice an immediate impact with Danny and what it was like to have him as a teammate that year?
Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, he came on mid-season. So, you know, I don't know what our record was after he came on, but I'm pretty sure it was probably, you know, better than our start that season. No, he, like, that was the thing. Like, that's when he came on and played, but he had been around for the past year, you know, him and Troy both working out and playing with us every day in practice and stuff. So we knew kind of what we had. We knew that we had something special. We knew we had, you know, talent that was, you know, doing it the right way and not selfishly. And we knew he was going to have a huge impact with us. And I told him in his little Hall of Fame honor thing that they had a couple months ago, he's the best pro I've ever played with, because, you know, when you play with pros or you play with very talented players, they have an ego about them, and they need an ego about them, because that's what makes them, you know, successful. That is what makes them work harder and want to win more than others. But he had also that, but he also had the ability to kind of lift up the people around him, make the people around him better, and then entrust the people around him to do what they need to do. And so when he'd kick the ball to someone, when he felt doubled or he felt collapsed on or he felt pressure and they shot and missed, it wasn't like he was going to look them off next time and force the shot over two. He was going to make the same pass and tell them that's a good shot and put the faith in them to shoot it again, you know. And that's what it really, you know, helped me kind of see that he was special, you know, that he had that talent and that he had the ability to take over the game, but he was still trying to do it right and still trying to build the team, because he knew he needed these pieces around him to be successful for him to ultimately have success.
You know, it's a great thing to say about Danny Granger. Is one of the greatest Lobos we had here, and you know, one of the guys that several that have played the NBA. You know, Luke Longley and Kenny Thomas and Michael Cooper. You know, joins that list. And when you say that a pro's pro, you could see that already when you played with him. His demeanor, that attitude. You mentioned that you played professionally overseas, so you understand that. And the great ones all have that. They have that cool about them. You know, that they're not going to get too flustered. And man, I'll tell you what, even in with Indiana and the pros, he had several good seasons before injuries set in. And it's too bad, because he was an all-star, 3 or 4 times, I believe, with the Pacers. And just when I think his knee went out on him, it's too bad, because I thought he had 3-4 more good years left. I really did. But, you know, things happen. You know, in 04 and 05, UNM finished 26-7 and won the Mountain West tournament. Danny Granger led the Lobos with an 18.8 at 18.8 points per game. Troy DeVries, Mark Walters, you and Alfred Neal all averaged double figures with a young Tony Dandridge on the roster. Tell us about that team.
Yeah, no, like I said, that's my favorite team, most memorable memories come from that year. You know, like I said, I always talk about the progression because you go from that first freshman year where practices are 3 hours hard and you're fighting and you're dealing with issues and you're dealing with frustrations and you're trying to build it. And I just remember that junior year, it was like in and out, no issues, no nothing, no confusion, everyone on the same page, understanding what we need to do. And, practice was like punching the card. You just came in, you did what you needed to, and you came out and, everything was great. You didn't have to worry about motivation or, lack of people bought in. Everyone was bought in, everyone believed, everyone worked hard, everyone, didn't feel bigger than themselves. And, everyone was kind of working for each other. And like I said, we knew Danny was our leader, but like at the same time, showing that, 4 or 5 other people are in double figures shows that we trusted the game. We trusted Richie. We trusted how we played together. And we knew I might have 20 this night and 8 this night, and we knew Danny was going to, get close to 20 every night because we needed him to. But, we just played our roles. We did what we were good at. Troy DeVries space, shot the ball. I was a presence inside, physical on defense and on offense. Alfred Neal was, our athletic high flyer and just kind of spot up in the corner, shoot threes. Mark Walters brought kind of that explosive power, getting downhill and getting into the lane. So I think, we kind of had all the pieces to kind of play their roles, and everyone knew what their strengths were, and everyone just played to their strength, and we all really enjoyed playing together,
First round loss to Villanova, but I got to tell you this, and going back to what you just said about that team, I think it's an underrated starting 5 in Lobo history. A solid season, but just the guys you mentioned, I'm looking back on that. I followed that season very closely. That's a solid 5. And then the guys you mentioned, Mark playing downhill and Danny and everybody doing their job. Troy DeVries is a much better guard than people probably remember. He was very good. That was a very good team. With Tony Dandridge, did you notice anything with the young Tony Dandridge that, hey, you looked at him and said, hey, this guy might turn into something? He only averaged 3 points. He's a young kid at that time. Did you see him at that point and say he's a lefty? He's got explosion. Did you see him and say, hey, this guy might turn into something?
Yeah, no, I mean, when you have that type of athleticism, you can be special. And it wasn't that like he said, he didn't have a bad attitude or he didn't, he enjoyed the work. So that was never the issue with Tony. So we always knew Tony was going to be good. The issue with Tony was, he like a guy who can jump like that. He wants to leak out. He wants to get out. He wants to get out on the fast break. And he wants to kind of get those dunks and those things that he's used to getting. And so the not the frustration, but the hardest part from as a freshman was, just getting him to commit to, helping us rebound, helping us play hard defense and bringing that athleticism to the game, but, as not as the main focus, as like kind of the secondary focus. And so I think, his evolution from freshman year to what he's become was just his ability to kind of work hard and grind to it and realize there's more to, basketball than just getting out and getting the dunk, and he became, really solid kind of in his mid-range game and other aspects of his game that kind of improved, over the time. When he's a freshman, he was pretty much, just kind of a athletic dunker who we knew had a lot of potential, but we knew he had to kind of develop a little bit more to his game to kind of be special.
Thought he won a dunk contest in college. I'm pretty sure he did.
He did. He had a ESPN SportsCenter top play on his dunk at Kansas State, which was pretty impressive. We got a steal, and I think I passed it to him coming trailing down the middle. He went off one leg, like hit the guy's chest, and like went up another level, and just had like eyes looking down at the rim. And it was ESPN SportsCenter top 10 number 1. Which was pretty cool. And you see my number in the back, and my hair flowing and my number in the back. So I made it in the video. So that was pretty cool. So I still think you can find it online. The pixels aren't great, but I still think you can find it. And then, I believe he did win the college sports.
Yeah, he did. Unbelievable athleticism. But, David, you're looking about basketball, even when you were playing then with New Mexico, was that as a coach? You're doing some coaching now, and there's no question you saw the game in a different way, even when you played back for UNM. I got to ask you this, Ryan. I'm deviating just a little bit, but
Nope.
tell us a little bit about your rivalry. You mentioned this with Utah center Andrew Bogut, who Andrew Bogut and Danny Granger had a rivalry too, and they carried it over in the pros. They still didn't even hardly talk, or they still had that kind of chip against each other in the pros. Talk about your rivalry with Utah center Andrew Bogut.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's what people kind of remember me for. And like I said, was the most memorable year is beating them at home and rushing the court. I believe when they were number 12 in the country, and then beating them again in the Mountain West. And when we did lose to them, Danny Granger was hurt kind of with, I believe, his meniscus issue for that game. So we didn't have him when we played Utah at Utah, or when we played BYU in Provo. And I think there was another game that we didn't have him at, Air Force maybe as well. So like a lot of people don't remember, like 3 of those losses were without Danny Granger, and they were on the road in tough places to kind of win in the Mountain West. And so, that team was really special. But those games against Bogut, like I said, I knew my role. We knew Bogut was, I believe, 18 and 18. He was like a 20 and 20 averager guy, dominating college basketball. So, my role was to make everything difficult, everything tough for him. So if he was going to catch it, he wasn't going to catch it near the basket to where I could rely on my teammates to dig and help and make him take a lot of dribbles to get to the basket. And then if he was trying to get it low, I had to get around, I had to front, I had to sit on his legs. I had to, basically fight with him and trust my backside for help. But that was my mission. That was my sole focus, is just, me versus him. And he didn't like it. He didn't like that physicality. He didn't like that, I was always there making every catch, every, opportunity hard, because a lot of bigs will fight like that for a while. And then they'll kind of, as the game kind of progress, kind of settle down and let you kind of get to where you want to get. But, he never got that from me. And I think that's frustrating. And, the fact that our team had success, and the fact that, my teammates could help me in that situation have success against him, I think, showed kind of that commitment, to doing it, because I couldn't do it by myself, but I could do what I had to do to make it tough, as long as I had the help from my teammates, and, he hated it. He's frustrated with it. He was mad at it, but, that's how it is, when you have a rivalry, or when you have a competition, or when you want to be a champion. And so, we got him in the Mountain West, and he left after 2 years, so at least we didn't have to get him for 4, I guess, and battle that battle.
No, David, we talk about New Mexico in the post defense in the post this year, and it's a hard battle. You mentioned that Bogut was a beast, man. He was, he played in the pros for 11 years. Solid big man, sets those picks, rolls to the basket, hits the mid range. A very good player. You had your hands full, but like you said, you mentioned the help from your teammates, and I'm sure that helped out as well. David, for a time under former UNM head basketball coach Paul Weir, you were the director of player development. And I remember Coach Weir, I talked to Coach Weir about this, and he mentioned that you went to go see him at his office. He didn't know you. He knew that you played for New Mexico, but you went and sat down there and really got that position after talking to Coach Weir. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so like you said, you've seen the way I play and how I've always kind of thought the game, and been more than just a player, who just goes out there and play. I really thought strategy, technique. I really buy into kind of game plan and strategy, and how to take certain things away from players, and just make things more difficult. You can't stop everything in basketball. You have to live with some stuff, but I'm not a huge analytical guy, but you have to understand the analytics. Like, I know what I want to get to. Everyone knew I wanted to get to left shoulder and my little jump hook, but you have to go so far to my left shoulder to stop my jump hook that you basically give me right shoulder and left hand easy, and so that I knew that. And, and that's part of thinking the game and understanding what teams are trying to do against you and what you're trying to do against them. I really love that aspect of it. I love that aspect of the game of, thinking the game, thinking how to take away someone's strengths, how we're going to help out from this guy, and how we're going to be the best 5 that beat this 5, and a lot of teams try to just rely on individual talent to kind of get them over that hump. And I'm the opposite, and so, playing. Sorry, I forgot kind of the question about.
What was the experience like working under Coach Weir when you were the
player?
Oh,
Coach Weir. So I always knew I wanted to get into coaching. I always knew like that after basketball was done, that's something, I have a passion for. It's something I feel, I have the brain for. It's something that I enjoy to do. And so, going through the thought process, like what better place than my alma mater, where my wife is from, where we're living and raising our family, than, to get my start. And so I actually tried under when Coach Noodles got the job, when he got it, actually tried the same thing. I actually did not go into the office because I had a better relationship with him because I was still working out in the summer with, the Lobos and stuff when I was playing overseas. And so I actually called the office and I wanted to say I was interested in kind of getting involved in coaching. And I think Nunez actually had an assistant coach opening position when I applied. And I applied for the assistant coach positioning, but I also kind of applied with the idea of like I was open for any position, whether that's video coordinator, director of ops, grad assistant or anything. And, I kind of called, it kind of got put on the back burner, never got a call back and never got any interest in me. And so I kind of, like I said, while we're talking a little bit I felt a little like, I at least should get, a conversation. I've been working out down here for the past 10 years with, the new Lobos. I'm an alumni. At least I deserve like a, not an interview, but at least a conversation or a callback to let me know, like, no, thank you or something. And so I kind of, tried to get into the world of college coaching that way, and it didn't work out. And then, after Noodles left and Weir got the job, I was pretty good friends with Brandon Mason, and I knew Brandon Mason had worked with him, and I gave him a call and I talked with him. And he's like, yeah, just go down there and talk to him, man, and see what's up or something. So I decided, I'm not going to leave it to phone calls and people calling you back and things like that. I know how the pit works. I know how to get in there. I can get into the office and stuff. So I came in my suit. I came with my, my resume and my story. And he decided to sit down and talk with me, and I had a good little conversation with him. And, a month later, that didn't happen. It wasn't like, yes, sure, no problem. It was kind of a month of kind of talking and asking questions with me and going back and forth. And then he decided to kind of offer me this position as director of player development. Now, it was strictly volunteer. It was no pay. I was working at UPS in the evening, so most people don't know this. So I was getting there at 6 a.m, working there till 5, and then leaving at 5 to go do my UPS evening shift. I would get I'd ask, my UPS was actually really cool. They'd give me the nights off when we had home games. And then I wasn't traveling, I don't think, on the road games. I traveled a couple tournaments and, the Mountain West tournament and other type of stuff and things like that. But that was just kind of my role. And, I loved it. I really feel like college basketball is where I want to be. It was just at the end of the year when it was like time to be like, this is really hard on my family to be gone so long for no pay. I wanted it to lead to, something more substantial. And, he kind of offered me the video coordinator job, and I was happy. I would have been happy to take that. But I wanted the promise of, as we have success and as your assistants kind of move on and take, better roles or other positions, that like, when an assistant coach position kind of comes up, that, I'm next in line, like that that I'm sacrificing this, for a reason to become a college coach, and he couldn't make that promise to me. And I decided to kind of walk away and just go into kind of high school teaching and coaching.
That's a really interesting story.
Yeah.
I think just from the terms of probably how hard it is to get into, but kind of pivoting towards your professional career, you were overseas. Tell us that experience and what it was like playing overseas.
Yeah, well, overseas, like a lot of people don't understand, and you kind of can see it in today's day and age with the NIL, that like kids are coming back for 5th years instead of going overseas and making money, right? So overseas was a little shock to begin with because, I'm used to playing in front of 18 screaming fans, big gym. But, all I got was my, little per diem on when we travel, or they pay for your dorm, or, you get a little La Posada, like meal plan or something. It's not like this great big deal, or, it's not this, this huge money. You're not rolling in money. You're a poor college kid like the rest of the college kids, basically, going to college and playing sports. And so overseas was like, okay, now we're getting paid. Now we're making money to do what we do. But the first country I went to was Austria, and Austria is a very low level kind of country, but I was happy to get a paycheck and I was happy to play for money. But it's also because I went out late. I didn't do any of the pre-draft stuff. I had surgery on my wrist right after the season. I kind of said, I'm not going to do basketball anymore. I'm kind of burnt out. It was hard to go from being on the top of the mountain junior year and kind of falling off, and having kind of a rough senior year. So I was a little burnt out. I knew basketball was going to end someday. Why not just end it now and start the next part of your life? So I came out late and I got an agent late, and it was already kind of midway through the season. So there wasn't a lot of options for me, and there wasn't a lot of, pre-draft stuff or other type of things for teams to make decisions on. So my agent got me this kind of, it's better to have you play than not play for a year, so, job. And so I was in Austria, and Austria is a very low level league overseas. And like, we're playing in, high school looking gyms. We're getting kicked off of practice time slots because handball practice for like some club team is coming on and stuff like that. And it was just weird. You're in a gym with a couple hundred people. It's quiet. You have another American with you, but then you're playing with a bunch of, Austrians who aren't very good. And so it was difficult for me because I'm away from my family. They don't have the same style of basketball, and they weren't that good. They relied on their Americans to basically win you the game. And that wasn't really my style of play. Now, I made it work for the first year, but it was really like after 1 year, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But my agent's like, give it one more try. Go to this little camp in Frankfurt in Germany. And I went to this little camp. I got a job for ZZ Leiden in Holland. And that kind of changed things because the gyms were a little bigger. The gyms were a little nicer. The money was a little better. The teammates were, a little bit better. And so you started to kind of enjoy playing, and you saw kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. And during this time, I was working on getting my Italian citizenship, which is harder than you think. But as soon as I got that, then that kind of boosted me kind of to those higher leagues and kind of put me, instead of competing for the 2 American spots on these great teams, you're competing against, the 10 Italians on the team. And so a lot of the top teams like that. A lot of the top teams see that as kind of getting a third American, and disguising it as an Italian. And so it really kind of upped my market value. And it got me to, the second league in Italy, which is a very strong league. And we ended up winning the Lega Due Championship and getting promoted to Lega A. And then my performance in kind of Lega A in Italy promoted me to playing for, one of the best teams in Italy, Olimpia Milano, which is owned by Giorgio Armani. And then kind of got me to that Italian national team. So it was kind of this, starting humble beginnings and kind of working your way up to now where you're playing in EuroLeague and in big stadiums and, on the big media broadcast stuff and things like that. So it was kind of a cool journey, but, I'm sure a lot of people that play overseas won't have that same kind of progression. They'll be stuck kind of in those lower leagues, and it's tough when you're in those lower leagues, but you're still getting paid to play. So you can't knock it,
The Italian league that you mentioned, the higher levels, those are pretty good leagues. And you said you had to work your way up there, but once you got there, you definitely earned your spot there. The next question we have for you, I got a quote here for you first. It's from Volcano Vista head coach Greg Brown, who I've known for many years. David has been helping us at Volcano Vista for the past 3 years. David has played a major role in the success of our program. He has spent a lot of time helping us develop schemes, working individually with players, specifically Sean Alter and Kenyon Owino. David has helped make the game easier for Sean and Kenyon, teaching them spacing and reads. David's X and O knowledge and his ability to teach the game is special. So I wanted to ask you that. They've won back-to-back championships there, and Greg Brown, a phenomenal coach, won a title at Monzano as well. Talk a little bit about your experience. I saw Kenyon last year, and he added some real good size, man. And he said this on the news that you've been working with him a lot in the weight room, and he's a beast. So talk a little bit about working with Sean Alter and Volcano Vista and Kenyon Owino.
Yeah, so about 3 years ago or 3.5 years ago, I went back to UNM. I had to do some classes for my teaching credential, and I have one more last class to get my master's kind of for in education as well. And so I was just doing like a student teaching type little event at Volcano, and he was in the weight room talking with someone, and he just introduced himself to me, and he's like, I got this big kid here. Like, would you be interested in kind of helping him? He's a little raw and unpolished, but, he's got some good size and athletic ability. He's a homeschool kid, and he just kind of hasn't played a lot. And I said, I love, that's what I love. I love, helping people get better. But, my big thing is you have to want it, and so I introduced myself to Sean. I met him, and he was this great, humble kid who just wanted to work hard and just wanted to do everything I asked of him. And so I was like, I'm bought in. And so it started off with me just kind of working out Sean and trying to help him kind of improve his game. And that led to like Coach Brown saying, oh, I like his improvement. I like what I'm seeing. And then so he invited me to kind of start, checking out some of his other players and seeing if I could help them and stuff like that. And then it just kind of slowly kind of transitioned to me coming to watch a few practice and me giving kind of a little, I call it like consultants, like, consulting him and talking to him a little bit about what he's doing, where I think he could get better, how I think he can structure things a little bit better to be more efficient, or how to kind of start seeing the game a little bit more complex. And, we kind of gone back and forth of, this is high school, this is higher level stuff. And I said, this is overseas. This is what they do at like 5 years old. They start them. And you can see it in like the European players. It's like they come over and they understand how to play basketball. Now, they might not be the most athletic, but like to me, I always say you can't control that. What you can't control is how good you shoot and how good you can kind of read and play the game. And I see the game very simple. I see it like a chessboard with different pieces. And so I'm like, what pieces do I have and what can they do? Are they queens? Are they pawns? And how are we going to use them together? And so I kind of just started kind of breaking that down for him and started kind of showing him some of my stuff. And, he really liked that stuff. And it became into, me getting there probably 2 to 3 times a week. And, I go after school and I catch it when I can. It's hard since I teach at Manzano to make it there every day, but I at least get there 3 times a week. And it's been like that for 3 years. And, I've seen a tremendous change in kind of Sean's game, Kenyon's game, and the overall team and their success of just, buying into what I'm giving them and, and just kind of showing them kind of a higher level of thinking and of how to play together and how to play as 5 guys together as one, and it's been awesome because, a lot of head coaches wouldn't do that, kind of let a guy come in there and kind of not really talk over Coach Brown, but, kind of say, this is what we want to do and give me kind of that ability to have that voice on his team, and so I'm really thankful that he's kind of bought into the voice that I've given the team. But like I said, it's still ultimately his team and he's the head coach, and he like you said, he's had success and he is a good coach. And so it's kind of a mesh of, my ideas and his ideas, and we kind of come up with, kind of our game plan of a little bit of both,
The other kid they have there now, David Lund, the freshman, unbelievable speed. And once he gets the ball in the paint, goes to his right, it's hard to stop him. Once he gets 2 feet in the paint, that kid is he's going to be something else. He really is. David, you mentioned, just hearing you talk, you got, you do a lot of coaching and individual instruction. Do you have any aspirations to be a head coach at the high school or college level?
Yeah, see, I always tell people and people think this, like, I don't know, they think like I want these positions or not. I really just enjoy the game so much. I really don't have any aspirations to be a head coach because, head coach is like, like the president of the United States. It comes with a lot of other duties that aren't just like, teaching and coaching basketball, So I really enjoy my role as kind of like a player development and an X and O's type guy and strategy thinker. So I really don't have any aspirations to kind of lead a program or be a head coach or, try to do something major like that. Now, if it happens, it happens. I'm not against kind of taking on that role, but I really enjoy kind of my role of, finding kids that are hungry, finding kids that want to get better, or, like Coach Brown's situation, or, a coach who believes I can help and help his whole team, hunger to get better and work hard and play the right way. And so I kind of just enjoy my role right now as being like a kind of a individual worker out consultant, X and O's guy. Kind of, you don't have to deal with parents or, fundraising or other political aspects of the job of being a coach. So, right now, I just see myself kind of staying as an assistant coach or, someone who's just going to find kids who want to work hard and help them work hard,
I like that president of the United States analogy. That's very true.
Yeah.
What is, if you've watched any of the UNM men's basketball team this year, and I know off the record I'd heard you say that while I was trying to figure out my life and technical technical difficulties. If you've watched them this year, what's your opinion of them? Um, what's your thoughts on them, and how far do you think they can go? What's the ceiling?
Yeah, no, I think they are as talented as a group that you can get. I think, like I said, their speed and their ability to kind of speed people up and pressure them is their key to success. I always talk to people because they go like, "What type of team would you want?" So I always say I really need a good hard pick and roll big. And I believe, in Toppin, they kind of have that type of player. I think they were struggling a little bit is when they were playing Junior and Toppin together, right? That's kind of old school basketball, 3 around 2, kind of 2 big man. I don't like that because I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that type of spacing. It kind of crowds the lanes for those great guards. And, I kind of think since they kind of went to, more, I think was his name, Amsel, right? The shooter on the 4 and, Toppin and Joseph kind of split minutes on the 5. I think it's kind of opened up the lane better with spacing to kind of have that 4 around 1. So I like that, both Joseph and Toppin are kind of can be pick and roll guys. Joseph's more of a, sit on the block and kind of hang out dunker and finish around the rim. And Toppin's a little bit can kind of get more involved in that pick and roll game. So I kind of like both those aspects. They kind of both kind of bring that same athletic big flavor. One's a little bit more kind of duck in and sit on your legs and kind of hide out baseline, which is good because that kind of opens up the middle for the guards to drive, and the other can kind of be a pick and roll threat and an offensive rebound threat off those pick and rolls. So I like our bigs. I like how we play through our bigs with pick and roll and stuff like that. The 2 knocks are size and shooting ability, I think is the issue. I like, playing Dent, Mashburn, and House, unbelievable talents, unbelievable guards. I would take any one of them on my team. But like I said, when you play all 3 of them, you're pretty small up front, and although, Mashburn, House, and Dent can all hit threes, Mashburn's more of a mid-range guy. House can get going, but I would say definitely his strength is pushing tempo and getting to the rim and creating for others and himself. And then, Dent's a little bit of everything. He can kind of do it all. But like I said, when you have 3 guys like that, a coach loves it. But like I said, you lose a little size and you lose a little, the simplicity of like a shooter just spacing and kind of lifting and drifting off of their penetrations and stuff. So my only concern is like, that balance, but, I think they have the athletes. I think they have, I like the True Washington, I like a lot of their players. I think they have the talent. I think they have the ability. I think they have the pieces. But like I said, I think it starts with their defense and how they pick up the ball and how they pressure and how House kind of sets the tempo for how this team's going to play. Because that's one of the strategies. When you are undersized, you got to speed them up and you got to force them to go where you want to, and you got to rotate and kind of turn the game a little bit more into like a scramble gamble, And I don't like to say scramble gamble because they're not scramble gambling it up because they're the top athletes and they know how to play, but it's, it's controlled speeding them up. They want the team to drive here. They want them to come to their help. They want to rotate and force them to take tough contested shots over their rotation. So when they play with that energy, when they play, when House is on the ball, turning that, that guard in the backcourt, and, they're just tenacious ball pressure on the ball, speeding you up, and they're kind of all over the place, and they're pushing tempo and getting down in transition. I think that's their key for success. Now, the biggest concern is when you play another team that likes to play that way, and I think, you play UNLV that way. They like that way, but they also have the size and they have, some height over us. And so when you play that style and you play a team that likes that style, but they're just as athletic or a little bigger than you, it's going to be hard. Now, it works when you play like, a team like Utah State who wants to be more system, more control, and you speed them up and you get them out of what they want to do. But it can also go against you if you can't speed them up, like when we play Boise State. You can't speed them up. You can't get them to play that fast way, and then it hurts you. So I believe like they have they can win any game. They can beat probably anyone in the country if they play right and they play the right way. It's just, a lot of things have to go right for them to kind of win those big, tough games. Now, I like their chances. I like their heart. I like the way they play. I think they have a chance to beat every game, but like at the same time, like you have to be able to win in multiple ways to kind of go far in March. You can't just always, speed people up to win. So that's my only concern. And I'm not going to say they're going to go all the way or they can make it, but they could easily go, make a run like San Diego State and go to, the Final Four. And to me, they can easily, get upset early, just because, they face the wrong team at the wrong time. And, they just can't speed them up and get them to play the style that we need to win.
That's the tournament. Those things happen, and you're right. And you've seen a lot of that. I want to ask you this, and we've got a couple more questions for you. JT Toppin, you mentioned the bigs and great. It's 4-round one, great breakdown of that pace and space. You mentioned that. What's his? I think his footwork is good. He's a long body. He's going to grow, and summer's worth of weight work will help him quite a bit. He's a lefty. He's got great footwork, I think. As he develops more, he's got a nice little lefty jump hook. Develops a turn and face post game. What do you think his ceiling is?
Oh, see, so what I love is, I think about my college days compared to my overseas days. So in college, it was all duck in, seal, high low, really working on the post, not really a lot of pick and roll. We ran this kind of Wisconsin flex action. I think I can't remember my junior, senior year. I don't really remember what we were running freshman year, but pick and roll wasn't a big part kind of, college basketball back in my day. And as Europe kind of has seeped over into the NBA and NBA has kind of seeped down to college, everything is pick and roll now. And so the funny thing is in college, and Danny mentioned this too in his Hall of Fame speeches, I was the guy wrestling with Bogut, fighting with him, pushing, and then he would just come in and steal the rebound, and so I only kind of got 7 rebounds a game, I think, most of my career. But when I was overseas, all of a sudden I was getting, 18 rebound games, 14 rebound games. I was averaging, 10 double-doubles in a row. And I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, why is this happening? And so what's really good about Toppin and what really is you can't teach, and what I try to teach a lot of bigs is screening and getting the guard open is the best thing you can do, is you're big. Like I always tell these big is don't fight this battle. If the guy is bigger and stronger than you, don't wrestle with him on the block, put him in pick and roll, make him have to stay in front of guys like House, Mashburn, Dent, right? And then when that guy can't stay in front of him and they put someone smaller on him, that's when you take that guy down and you start sealing them and working them on the post, because that guy might stay in front of the ball a little bit better and get back to you. But now when they throw the skip out off the pick and roll and you duck in on that guy, he can't guard you inside. And so it's kind of like I said, is feeling that defense. And that's what Toppin does is, he knows the guys he can duck in on. He knows when it's just like, hey, I'm going to screen and get House and Mashburn going, and they're going to draw the help from my big, and it's an easy rebound, like against a guard. Like I said, if they're going to switch and challenge House at the rim, that leaves House's defender or a rotating guard to kind of box out Toppin. And, he's relentless on the glass. And like, if you have that mentality of, I'm going to work hard to get others open, and then I'm going to go get their misses, or believe like, every shot's a miss and I'm going to go get it, you're going to have success. And, you see that with his approach to the game of just, always on the glass, always getting boards, always kind of, screening and getting other people going. But at the same time, he's a threat on the block. You put someone who's not a stud, he's going to catch it, he's going to duck, and he's probably going to score or get fouled, or, get a high percentage shot that you believe he can make. So like I said, I think, his ceiling's high. Like I said, if he wants to kind of go to the next level, it's the same kind of issue. Pick and roll bigs at 6'9". I think he's 6'9", right? He's not 6'10".
Yeah. 6'9".
It's not a thing. They're telling me, in my little NBA workouts and stuff, you got to be, a 3, almost in the NBA. You're like a 4'3", you're not, and me, I'm more like a 5'4". I'm thinking, okay, maybe I could be like a 4'3". They're thinking more like a 3'4", in the NBA at 6'9" nowadays, So, I think at the college level, he's going to always continue to improve and impress. But for him to kind of expand to the next level, he has to kind of come into that kind of Danny Granger role where, yes, he can duck in and score, but he also has to be able to handle it. He also has to expand his range and start kind of being, a space 4 at least shooter,
Got to be able to stretch and handle the ball a little bit too.
Yeah.
Couple more questions. We'll let you go. You've been, man, unbelievable. Great stuff, David. We really appreciate it. When Coach McKay coached the first few seasons, the attendance at the pit wasn't great at first. I remember reading in the paper there wasn't as many people there, but it improved once the team started winning again. Talk about, you mentioned the win against Utah, the fans rushing the court. Talk a little bit about your other favorite pit moments. I'm sure you had them.
First one, I think this was against Araujo's BYU. We were down 1 with I don't know how many seconds to go, but basically it was like kind of, throw the ball full court length and kind of run that same play everyone does at the end of the game. Big guy flashes middle, shooters kind of, go up the sideline and you either catch it, turn and shoot, or you catch it and kind of throw it to one of the trailing shooters and they get off a shot, And I remember Araujo was fronting Danny, 90 feet away from the basket. And I don't remember. I want to say it was Mark Walters, because I think he's the only one with like the biggest, strong enough arm to kind of throw a ball like that. But he just kind of took this, quarterback, one arm baseball throw, 90 feet, goes over Araujo's fingers by like, half an inch. And Danny catches it like kind of off balance, falling over, and like takes one dribble and like lays it up for us to like get the lead by 1 with like, I think like 0.8 seconds left. And we ended up winning that game. That was another kind of memorable moment. Obviously, that Utah game when we rushed the court, but the loudest and the biggest I've ever seen the crowd at the pit was when we played Chris Paul's Wake Forest. They said 18,018. I felt like 25,000 in there. I remember at the jump ball, Chris Paul came up to me and he was like, "This is what you get to play in front of?" And I was like, "Yep, almost every day like this." And he's like, "Man, this is the best place to play." And that to my day, like, just sticks with me because, like, Chris Paul is one of my favorite point guards. It's like, if I had to pick any point guard to have on my team, that's probably the type of point guard I would want. Just to see that he was just so impressed and so amazed that we get to play in front of such a great crowd in a great stadium, like almost every game like that, was kind of truly, kind of opened my eyes. Like, yeah, this is really special that we get to play like that. And so that was a good game. We did not beat the number 3 in the country, Chris Paul, Wake Forest at that time, but it was a good game. We were in it. I think they ended up pulling away and kind of beating us by 10 or so. But that was another real memorable moment in the pit for me.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of them, and it's a magical place. It really is. It always has been since it was built in '66. One more question. Ryan, this isn't on the list, but you've got a developing young son at 13 years old that's playing with ABC. What a coaching staff you guys got there. Brandon Mason, yourself, Doris Gary, Ramon Martinez, Jay Hill, Natalie Zamora. There's some great coaches over there, man. Tell us about your son.
Yeah, so Mason, like if you live in Albuquerque, Mason has been involved in kind of basketball in New Mexico for a long time. So anything that's going on basketball in New Mexico, if you don't know or you need to find out, Mason's your guy to kind of find out information. My son, I was not really coaching my son's team. Like I told you, I didn't really have aspirations to kind of be my son's coach. But his team that he was playing with, his best friend, whose dad was the coach, they ended up moving to Texas, and all the parents were kind of like, "What are we going to do with this team? Who's going to coach it?" All these kids are kind of going to the same high school, so they kind of wanted to keep the group together. And everyone's kind of looking at me. And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it, I guess," because I was the only one kind of somewhat qualified, I guess, to coach this little 4th grade team at that time. And so I kind of took over that role. And then, the hardest part, like I said, I'm not big in kind of the head coaching responsibility. So I did it for about 2 years, and I was kind of getting tired of trying to find gyms and find all this other stuff and do all this planning to kind of get practice time and all this other stuff. And at that same time, kind of Brandon Mason was starting up, with Skarsgård, ABC and stuff. So he kind of called me and said, would I be interested in kind of bringing some of my guys over and kind of doing this ABC thing? And I'm like, so I won't have to schedule practices or gym time and stuff like that? And he's like, yep. I'm like, all right, I'm in. So, I just did it. I knew, Mason was going to get ABC up and running. I knew he was going to, make this kind of the premier spot for, good basketball players to come and work out and be a part of and start to travel as like kind of the game of high school and youth sports has changed. And so I'm always there to help a friend in need. And so I kind of came, I helped, I brought my team, and I've been coaching and working out some of his prep guys from time to time and just kind of doing what I can to help him and help the organization and help my kids who want to get better.
Ed, do you have anything else?
You know what, David, that's you got to, the one coach I left out was Chris Pettis. Chris Pettis does a great job over there. Probably left somebody else too, man. Great staff. And, David, your analysis of the game blows me away, man. But, I think you see it in a different way, as far as spacing bigs, space, two, 4 around 1. So whatever you're teaching those kids, and it's been proven with Kenyon Owino and Sean Alter. Again, just the size that Kenyon added, and then Coach Brown mentioned the way you taught them reads. And he's a outstanding player and an even better young man. He's a good person. So you've touched a lot of basketball lives, man, and plenty more to go.
For sure, definitely. No, I love, like I said, I love giving back. I love helping those who want to learn and who want to work hard. Like, I'm not going to tell you though. I mean, all my people that work out with me will tell you my workouts are not easy. That's for sure. I mean, there's an aspect to to being great that comes with the work as well, and that's the biggest fight that I have sometimes with kids is, you say you want to be great, but this is what it takes to be great. And so this is what you got to do. And that's sometimes a battle, but, I'm always there to kind of help a friend in need or help someone who wants to work hard or help someone who wants to be great or do great or who wants to learn good basketball. And so, I'm always going to be a Lobo for life. I'm always going to support the Lobos. I'm always going to help ex-Lobos and ex-people who love Lobos and love this town. And so, I live here. My family's here. And so that's my job, is to be here, help people, and be a good fan and be a good coach and help this next generation, continue to work hard and grow kind of in their basketball adventures. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be around. And let's go Lobos, right? Let's go see if we can do some magic here at the end.
That's right. Exactly. Now, Ryan, I don't have anything else, Ryan, unless you do.
No, just make sure I can get everybody's name right, not just call him Steve. He played for the Lobos from 2002 to 2006, and I didn't compliment his mustache. Very hardy. I love it. Member of the 2005 Mountain West Conference Tournament Championship UNM men's basketball team. His name is David Chiotti. Since Ed told me we were getting you on the show, I'm telling you again, I was so excited. I want to thank you for taking about an hour of your time to talk basketball with us and continuing our, former Lobo, as we call it, the Lobo Legend series. We much appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
No problem, Ryan. Anytime.